Okay, well, welcome. You're in Module 6. Look at that. Look at you. You've gone so far. So this one, we're going to be talking about how do you cultivate growth surroundings. So before I get into what we're going to cover today, let's do some housekeeping. You got your worksheet in front of you. If not, you get that printed out so you're ready to go. Pen, pencil, whatever you like. And then that notepad so you're capturing these ideas that just flow into you. Make sure you got that nearby. Now we're going to be looking at three key pieces here. One, we're going to talk about how do you assess your environment. Let's assess your current environment, both for you and for those if you're leading a team, for your team. And then we're going to be able to give you some real principles and actually a template for how you create the right growth environment for you and the right growth environment for your team. All right, so again, let's get our head into place of some of these are going to seem like, oh, that's common sense. We're going to move to, but is it common practice? It's those who put it in common practice. So challenge yourself to say, okay, to what degree do I have this in action? To what degree is this a discipline for me? To what degree is this kind of happening around for my team? So when you do that, you're going to be able to extract the learning and extract growth. All right, so let's get ready. Let's get into it. So you see on your worksheet, we're going to do this exercise together. So you're going to assess your current environment when it comes to growth by answering true or false to each of the following statements. So let's walk through these. First, you'll see others are ahead of me. Now, let me define a couple of these. Others are ahead of me is that I'm in a group of people who maybe they've gone a step ahead. I'm at a state of learning. You ever heard that saying? It's if you're the brightest guy in the room, look out, or brightest gal in the room, look out, because all of a sudden your growth could be stunted, right? So in my environment, are people around who are kind of ahead of me. Now, this doesn't mean more income. It just could be in experiences. Is there some things that I can extract? Am I continually challenged in the environment I'm in? Is my focus forward? So again, we want to answer true or false. The atmosphere is affirming, true or false. I'm often out of my comfort zone, true or false. I wake up excited to start my day or as I move through my day. Now let me just check on this one. It doesn't mean you have to get up, before you have a cup of coffee, all rip-roaring and yay! Those kind of people can be unnerving, right? Sometimes. But it means when I wake up, do I look at the day through a fresh eyes of what are the possibilities? Am I able to get there? Number 7, failure is not my enemy. Now, is that a true or false for you? Number 8, others are growing. Number 9, people desire change. Number 10, growth is modeled and expected. Now, I want you to take a moment and really do this. Don't fall into, okay, can I just whip through this? Maybe hear the answers. There's no wrong answers here, but you want to go through, true or false. So take a moment and stop there and identify as you go through each 10 for your current environment, are they true or false? All right, I hope you've done that. Let's walk through. If you have 0 false, all of those are true, that means you're in a growth environment with the right personal mindset. Now, if you have, and many do, perhaps you have 1 or 2 that are false. Those ones that, it's not quite there. See, you're likely in a growth environment, and with just a little bit of self-management, you'll be able to sustain it. Now, if you got 3 false, you may have to start. Actually, you should be on the lookout. Do you have stagnation setting in? If 3 of those are false, be on the lookout. Now, if you have 4 or more false, your environment may be hampering your growth. And if that's so, it's time to take fast action. And we're going to get into how you do that right now. So the next exercise, we're going to provide you ways in which you could assess your team in the same manner. So just like you did with yourself, you walk through those 10 questions. You want to take a moment, and if you're leading a team, how would they answer these questions? Are others what could they say? Are they ahead of them? Are they continually challenged? Are they focused forward? Are there an atmosphere of learning? Now, I know you're playing an active role, perhaps, in developing a few of those. Are they out of their comfort zones? Are they waking up each day excited? Is failure their enemy, or others are growing? Are there people, would they say, yeah, they're the desire for change in their atmosphere? Is growth being modeled? Now, again, this is you assessing how you believe your team would answer these. Now, in doing that, what you'll start to see are ideas where you could create for your team a growth-fulfilled environment. So do that together. Do that again. Take some time. Don't just plow through this video. Instead, stop right now and now answer these for your team. I'll wait. Go ahead. Okay, if you've done that, now same thing. If you have 0 faults, if you think your team's going to say true on all that, that means you've created a growth environment that that's right for everybody. And again, same thing. If 1 or 2 are false, you likely have a growth environment, but perhaps maybe there's some self-management on behalf for you or some of those around you. And again, if 3 are false for your team, stagnation could be setting in for your team. You may want to be on the lookout for that. Look at their areas. Maybe there's even key performance indicators. There's measurements where stagnation is setting in. I'll guarantee you, see 3 faults, there's measured impact of that. And if 4 or more, just like it is, are false, just like it is for you, it's time for fast action, because it's no longer an environment that is producing high growth or the growth potential that could be there. Okay, so how do you do this? How do you create a growth environment for yourself first? Let's start there. So first one to look at is the hot poker principle. I'm not sure if you've ever heard this, and this is a great one that John Maxwell even refers this in his 15 laws of growth. And the hot poker principle. Just think of this. When you're around a fire, how do you get a poker warm? Well, you don't have to put it into the fire. You just have to put it next to the fire. If it's next to the fire, that metal will start to heat. Well, you're like the metal in the poker. If your environment is cold, you're going to grow cold. Now, if your environment is hot, you're going to get hot. Now, when I say hot is I'm on this growth movement. When you're around people like that, you're going to grow. Hey, it's just like you put yourself, actually, I want to highlight this. You put yourself, if you've got 5 people you're hanging around and all those 5 people smoke, well, you'll be the 6th. If those 5 people, every time they're whining and complaining, hang around it long enough, you'll be the 6th. So how do you embrace this hot poker principle? Is put yourself next to people, next to environments that are going to heat you up. All right, so let's look at the next principle. Next one is the 33% rule. Now, let me walk through this. First, the bottom 33%, those are, those are negatives. Those are those, you ever see, it could be people, nothing is ever good enough for them. You'll know this, they often zap your energy. Then there's that middle 33%. You want to fill this out on your worksheet. They're those happy and positive when things are going well, but when times get tough, when they're down, when times of challenge or adversity, you'll see them drop. Now then, there's the top 33%. They maintain this positive attitude even in its tough times. Now, I don't want to lay out positive attitude as those who just look through rose-colored glasses. I'm talking those they're fine to call it out as it is, but they're looking at how they can respond. They take this personal accountability. They're leaders who are game changers. These are leaders who are influencers. See, these kinds of people, these are the ones that first are people we should try to be. And second, those are the kinds of people you want to spend your most time around. So all of us, when you stand back, you can apply this 33% rule. Say, okay, where do I get most of my time? Look, we're going to interact with different people at different times. Am I hanging around the bottom 33% a lot? Do I just maybe just hang out with the middle 33% because they don't challenge me, it's safe? If I want to grow, I want to have more time with the top 33%. And if I want to lead my team, I want to be the one that is in that top 33%. I want to be behaving in the same manner. Now, the next is reference groups. Now, reference groups, these are people who you habitually associate with. Now, let me just give you some examples. Now, actually, I should share the study. A Harvard study is 95% of your success or failure in life are determined by those you associate with. Maybe you've heard this. Jim Rohn would always say this. We become a combined average of the 5 people we hang around most. So that impacts your health, your attitude, even your income. King Solomon said, walk with the wise and you'll become wise. If you want to grow, spend time with great people, attend great events, read great books, elevate your conversations to uplifting conversations where this is going to build you up. And now, if you want to cultivate your growth surrounding, you can't just have this happen by accident. You have to be intentional. Sometimes it's as quick as maybe it's assembling them yourself. This group of guys or gals who you can connect with that will help you grow. Now, what are the lessons you could take from these tips at cultivating your own growth environment? See, if you want to grow, again, the key applicator here is be intentional. Be intentional about selecting your environment and how you allow your environment to influence you. Now, this is key. You as a self-managed leader, when you do this, you're not only getting yourself set up for growth, but if you lead others, you are modeling well. Be intentional. Be intentional about selecting your environment and how you allow your environment to influence you. Don't let it come by chance. When you're a self-managed leader, you are going to be really intentional and you're actually going to create a discipline around this. Now, it's not always comfortable. I'm going to tell you that up front. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's always profitable. You see, particularly when you're around those who are, I'll just call it larger than yourselves. It's those who kind of maybe, when I say larger, maybe higher in integrity. They're kind of that little extra dose of being positive, and perhaps they're a step ahead professionally. Maybe they're just growing. They're at a growth phase. They lift us up. Now, you got to put aside your ego and you got to embrace a growth mindset. When you do that, now you're ready to cultivate a growth environment for yourself, and you're setting yourself up to have that replicated for your team. Okay, let's talk about, I want to give you practical tips on how to build a growth circle. So first, assemble mastermind groups. Now, if you haven't heard that term before, it's really a mastermind group is an assembly of individuals who have a common goal. A common goal could be working on a certain project. A common goal could just be growth. And they kind of build this almost iron sharpens iron environment. But that you assemble them with this common goal. You see the key word? Assemble. So you can build this yourself. You can start saying, okay, if I want to grow, who can I call upon? Remember, start to build those who are going to add value, larger than yourself. Get out of your comfort zone with this one. Number 2, be intentional about what you read. Those you read become other people in your inner circle. I can think of many authors that I'm so grateful that they've been in my life. They're part of my inner circle. They've become part of my kind of board of directors, and I've never met them. So be intentional about what you read. Number 3, identify a mentor. Now, a mentor is somebody who perhaps have gone there before. Now, maybe they haven't gone doing exactly what you're trying to do, but they've gone through similar learnings that maybe you could benefit from. You'll be surprised how many people are putting up their hands up, wanting to be a mentor, wanting to, pass on some of their learnings. Number 4, get an accountability partnership. Now that's different from a mentor. A mentor is passing on information. And accountability partnerships are those who are going to help you stay committed to the actions needed to move you forward. This is critical. If you've ever had perhaps a personal trainer to get yourself in better health, or maybe it's in sports, that accountability partner, you have to set that up that you are just as willing to take feedback. You have to give them and if you do, you give them the rights to speak into certain behaviors for you, you will benefit. You'll also be putting your ego at a place that you could go from ego to learner. Okay, those 4 things you put in place, you'll now create or build a growth circle for yourself that'll allow you to grow. They'll allow you to continue to grow. All right, 2 final tips for this area. 1, focus on the moment. Now, let me discuss this a little bit. Often when someone begins to, take on their personal growth journey, they begin to focus so much on the future, or they get caught up on the past. Let me deal with those too. The future, you want to say, I'll start to implement these type of initiatives or ideas down the road, or when I get to the next level. That's when you're too focused on the future. I'm not going to start now. It's when I get to that level, when I get promoted, when I get to having more staff, then I'm going to start acting in this manner. Then I'm going to start implementing those things. You want to focus in the moment and say, let me capture what I can do right now. Actually, you want to almost live as if you're already there and start taking action. Now the past, that's the one that can trip us up. The past, that's when, we dwell so much on the impact of these pasts that they become insecurities, that we don't move. The past you can't change. The future can't control, you can't control it. So the real key application here is focus on the current moment. What can you do right now? Ask yourself what I should be attending to right now so that I can grow in the direction of your goals. And I would suggest this, put that into a behavior. What is the behavior? What is the action step that I could take that will move me forward? You want to write it down. This is my key behavior that gets me results. That's focusing on the moment. Next is move forward despite of criticism or opposition. Now, I think you'll see in your worksheet, there's this quote by Wallace Wattles, and it's out of The Science of Getting Rich, said, don't wait for a change of environment before you act. Cause a change of environment through action. See, sometimes when you're starting moving into growth, there's often opposition. There's always going to be a critic in the room. That's a good indication that you're moving forward. Now, most people underestimate themselves. They shoot for what they think they can reach. Instead, they should be focusing on things that are just a little beyond their grasp. Remember, if you don't try to create that future that you really want, that means you have to endure what you get. So the real key is move forward beyond the criticisms. Be focused on your goal. And sometimes they can come from people who are closest around you. All right, let's move into the next one, is how do you cultivate a growth environment for your team? So let's walk through this exercise here. Remember the exercise, what we said before, the 10 steps, those others are ahead of me, I'm continually challenged, and so on. They're on the screen here. If you've gone through this, and you've gone through this, so how would my team respond to this? You want to, as a leader, you want to take a look at what it's my responsibility to create an environment of growth. And you want to almost adopt this, and I can do it. There are things in your control that you can take action to. You can do this And quite frankly, if you want to be in that servant leader, you want to do the things that are in control, because this is how your team gets into growth mode. Then you'll be able to get better results. All right, let's break these down. 6 considerations for cultivating a growth environment for your team. Number 1, you could probably bet this was coming. Start with you, right? That's the basis of Lolo. You're the first to lead you. And you want to be intentional about your personal growth. So that's what we talked about before. What are you reading right now? What are your growth goals? Do you have a growth circle and an accountability support? Now, and I say, as you start with you, don't be afraid to share it. Share it with your team. Here's what I'm doing. Now, it's not a bragging, it's actually sharing. I'm in a journey. People will replicate what they see done more than what is being told for them to do. So share that. So start with you. Second, recruiting. Now, let me talk to what does this mean? Recruiting means you want to recruit the right team members around you. This isn't just motivating. You're not there to motivate. You can be the team member to equip. So one of the things in creating the right growth environment, put the right people in the right seat of the bus. So take a good look. What are the gifts that you need around you? What are the gifts needed for your team, the assembly that's required? And be very honest. And once you know the gifts, now you start recruiting to those gifts. If you already have a team assembled, you want to ask yourself, do you know your team? There's lots of strength type finders or personality profiles. Now, do you know the makeup of your team and how do they balance to what's needed? Third now is training and development initiatives. So, you want to, again, the strength and weakness of your team. What are the things that need to be elevated? What are the gifts that you have on your team that if they just took a couple of steps up, they would have a high impact on your team? I worked on a team where we had a whole bunch of those who, I wouldn't call them type A personalities, but let's just say not afraid of expressing their opinions. But yet we didn't have anybody who was, that put things into order, the get all the administration together. Once we recruited that person, we actually sent them on a course to actually get their gifts from good to great. What a difference it made to our team. And it actually made the rest of us more impactful. So training and development initiatives, think of what are the things that you could do to bridge the improvements so they're goal focused or supporting your goals. Number 4, goal setting. Goals that, these aren't just goals that are easily attained. They have to have some personal stretch. I don't mean out of reach totally, but they got to have some personal stretch. So if you're setting goals now that are so that everybody could feel good, check yourself. They got to have some personal stretch. And this is a two-way conversation with your team. So, to what degree, challenge, is this stretching us enough? What can we stretch more? And this collaborative effort can come up with some really great goals that cultivates a growth environment for your team. Number 5, pace setting sessions. Now, let me just talk about these. I love these. Pace setting sessions, in essence, are, when it's focusing on the goal, yes, but it's really talking about momentum. It's saying, where are we at? Now, how can we speed this up? This is great if you're in business. Maybe you start out the first quarter and you set out these goals that are really great. Now you're meeting in the first quarter and you're somewhat there, but not always. And hey, maybe you got the whole year. This session is not just to regurgitate the goal. It's to talk about how can we step up the pace? What are the things that we can fire up the momentum a little bit? And you're going to call these pace setting sessions. When this is an act of discipline for your team, boy, this creates this environment of growth. It kills stagnation, and you'll see your team will extract more joy. They'll get up in the morning going, okay, let's charge into what we can create. So that's number 5 is pace setting sessions. Okay, number 6, collaborative partnerships. This isn't just with this is with everybody. With subordinates, with now let me just kind of walk through this a little bit. There is a study by the Blanchard Research Group, and they had 4 key leadership behaviors to cultivate growth within, or a collaborative growth environment. And let me just walk through each one. One was expand the minds or thinking abilities of your team. Now you do that by challenge some thinking. Don't be afraid to actually have some things that are real discussion points. Because as that's happening, there's an expansion of thinking. Now you got to set the rumble a little bit. You got to set up saying give the parameters that this is what we're going to go through as we collaborate. The second is you're going to assume responsibilities. Everybody wants to assume responsibility for their own actions. You want if you have a team where they know exactly what they're responsible for, and no matter what, things can happen. They don't fall into excusitis. They say, I'm responsible. It doesn't mean they can't have failures. They can have failures. But this says, I'm responsible, says, when something doesn't come out right, I own it. Now, if you got that, there's a growth environment being created. Number 3, find innovative ways. If you have innovative ways to do their work and meet their goals. There's a lot of different ways to create something, a lot of different ways to make chili, a lot of different ways to make pizza. Well, there's a lot of different ways. I'm on a food kick here, but there's a lot of different ways to get work done. Well, allow that spirit of innovation and creativity, because when you get that, there's growth. Because yesterday's way could just be the foundation of tomorrow's innovation. You don't want to just get stuck in a way that you no longer become innovative. Number 4, don't just provide answers to your team. Listen and get involved with the solutions. So now as a leader, I'll tell you could fall into this. Your teammate can say, hey, I got this problem. And the leader wants to, they want to feel like they're helping, so they just blurt out an answer. Listen and then try to get involved at creating solutions. How do you mine that together? Now, if you're doing these 4 things, you're developing a productive work environment, an environment that's growth. If you don't, and this is what you want to look back on, am I providing things that are expanding the thinking abilities of my team? Have I set up the parameters so they assume responsibility for their actions? Meaning, do they know not just what they're responsible for, but the behaviors that impact the most? And are you making sure that there's innovation, that there's something that we're always being looked to fresh ways? Are you stirring that up? And again, don't just be the answer person. Don't be the 1-800 just call you. Listen, but then help them shift into solutions. All right. So now let's wrap up here. We've covered a lot in terms of first assessing your growth environment, then how do you cultivate it for yourself, and then how can you do that for your team? Okay, so here's some takeaways. First, you want to be deliberate in your practice. Those things that you answered false to, that you think, okay, I should get at, you want to now start stepping into. So review your notes. Now you probably hear that in every course. Oh, review my notes. It's a nice idea. If you review your notes, particularly within the next 24 or 48 hours, that 20 or 30 minute investment is going to get you big rewards. Not only will you retain it, it will help you identify things that will put you into actions of growth. All right. Now, I'm just going to tell you that if you do those 2 things, you're going to continue growing. And right now, if you've now finished module 6, and if you've been applying along the way, you're in a season of growth. You're now moving into that upper echelons of growth leadership for you. If we continue on knowing and applying, this is going to continue to grow. I want to thank you so much for moving at this pace. I want to thank you so much for completing the exercises to now. But I want to see the best growth for you. I want to hold that space, that goal with you, because I want to celebrate you being equipped to not only lead yourself, but be ready to expand out and lead others in a way that expands whatever you're focused on taking the next leap to. All right, I'm going to see you in the next module, module 7. Looking forward to it. So review your notes, be deliberate, be well, lead well, grow.